Hey, what is up everybody? This is Boss Driver. Today I'm going to talk to you about flying the overhead pattern. We are at Fresno International Airport in California. We're flying the L-39. Pretty sweet ride. We are on runway 11 left, and the field elevation is just over 300 feet MSL. So we're going to fly the pattern at 1,500 AGL, making it 1,800 MSL. I'll show you how to fly the outside pattern and the inside pattern, a 2-mile initial, and we'll fly the brake. So here we go. I have never flown at Fresno Airport before, so this will be a new experience for me. We'll try to pick out some ground references that look good, but we'll use the runway as the primary reference for flying the pattern. Alright, gears coming up. Good speed, flaps coming up. We'll climb up to 1,800 MSL, and I'll fly an outside pattern to the left. The outside pattern is a box pattern, very similar to civilian regular pattern, except we'll be a couple miles away from the runway. We need that couple miles separation from the runway because there's going to be other aircraft flying the inside pattern close to the runway. Climbing up to that 1,800, clear left. Gears up, flaps are up, 1,800. Fly this outside pattern. There's a little high, that's correct. Fly this outside pattern. Just do a 90 degree to the runway. Roll out. Now let's try to fly it at about 275. Probably a good speed. Check where we are relative to the runway. Fly a couple miles away from the runway, but still within tower's airspace. Alright, check our positioning. And roll into
Fresno Tower, Boss Driver, 1 frequency change.
Alright, I'm not going to try to engage with the tower for overhead patterns. Obviously they don't have that option in Microsoft Flight Simulator, so we're going to do it on our own. There's the runway over there to our left. We're on the outside pattern. I might need to space out just a little bit more. Trim, trim, trim. And try to find some ground references. I see down there to the right, a little part of town, an intersection of freeways, and I see that little lake down there to the right. So I'll use that as a ground reference for my future patterns. Checking out what we've got out here to the left, this highway that goes in front of the runways. Alright. After we get far enough out here, we want to go out to about 4 miles, and then we'll turn 90 degrees to the runway, 90 to initial. Probably about there is good. We stay at the pattern altitude, roll into it, pull hard. Yes, sir. Nice 90 to initial, checking the runway. Looking for those ground references. There's that lake over there. A little bit slow. Increase speed again. Pattern altitude. Altitude and airspeed. Now let's turn 45 to initial, which would be 45 degrees to a point 2 miles away from the runway. So there's the runway down there to the left. And once we get to initial, which is a 2-mile final from the runway at pattern altitude, there it is there. We want to be a little bit better lined up with the runway. We would call that we're initial. Tower would tell us where to brake approach end or brake midfield, in which direction, left or right. Let's do a left brake midfield. That's pretty common. Try to pick out what is about midfield. I can see that road down there to the left. So right there is about midfield. little bit high on pattern altitude, we go idle, speed brake, and pull. Use a little bit of altitude since I got a little high. Pull all the way into the inside downwind, bleed off that airspeed. Keep bleeding off speed, a little low, a little slow. Let's go gear and flaps. Back up to pattern altitude, check my spacing. I'm a little bit tight. Alright, let's go full flaps. Trim, trim, trim. Try to pick out some more ground references. I'm pretty tight on the runway right now. There's that lake or reservoir. See where I am here. Alright, we got gear and full flaps, good perch point. So we'll perch and turn base to final. And we'll call boss driver 1 gear down. It'll clear us for the touch and go or the option. Alright, so that spacing was pretty good. So runway. Pick out about a quarter mile to half mile final. Down to final airspeed. Trim, trim, trim. We got aim point airspeed. Aim point airspeed. All the way down to the runway. Alright, let's go flaps back to half. And power up. There we go. This time let's do a closed pattern. We'll pull close to the left. There's lift up, gear, good speed flaps. Let's get up to about 220 knots. And then we would request closed. Of course we can't do that in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but some good speed. Request closed, they'd say you're clear closed. Turn, pull, we'll get up there to 1800 MSL. Really fun to do closed patterns in real life. Getting up there to pattern altitude, there's 1800, looking for some ground references. Let's roll out. Whew, that was a bit aggressive of a rollout. And pull the power back and wait till about midfield to configure. Maintaining pattern altitude, 1800. Alright, we're about midfield, good speed. Flaps half and gear down. This looks like good spacing. And then once we get to the perch point, we will roll off the perch again, do another touch and go. Just maintaining altitude and airspeed, looking for ground references. The reservoir is a good one. Ooh, Fresno is a beautiful area. Some mountains in the distance. Alright, we're at the perch point. Got handle down. Gear flaps. Rolling off the perch, gear down. Let's check how we're doing. A little high, bring it down. Trim, trim, trim. Pulling out on final aim point airspeed. Aim point airspeed all the way down final. Landed slightly long last time. Let's see if I can tighten that up a little bit. Let's do a little bit earlier power pull. Right about there. Ease it onto the runway. Stay on center line. There we go. Go flaps back to half and power up. Let's do another overhead pattern. So we can do initial and the brake. One of the cool things about the overhead pattern when you fly it in real life is it's usually pretty busy, so you have to stay super sharp on the radios. Use your ears to identify where people are when they're making position reports. They will also be flying high key and low key, which I will talk about and show you guys in part 2 of the overhead pattern. And since we're in a single engine jet, high key and low key are super important. So if we have power loss, alright, we're going to apply this outside pattern again. Let's turn and pull. Let's get up to pattern altitude. Alright, positioning, outside downwind, accelerating. Apply this one a little faster so we can do about 300 knots. Keep that pattern altitude, get a couple miles from the runway. Also, in the next video, we can talk about breakouts. Breaking out of the pattern when there's a conflict or you need to reestablish yourself. Alright, we get a couple miles away from the runway. Roll, bump of power so we don't lose airspeed, and pull over to outside downwind. Check our spacing. Alright, spacing's looking good. There's that other river that we referenced last time, that little intersection in town. Let's do this initial to a touch and go. We'll pull closed one more time and we'll call that good. But fast, checking our position. Position's looking good. Check the outside of the plane. Ooh, sharp. Looking good. Gained a little bit of altitude, bring it back down. There's a good about 4 miles. Roll it into the 90 to initial. Pull. Get that G's on. There we go, 92 initial. A little bit low, correcting. See that reservoir. I'm going to head just to the front of that reservoir for my 92 initial. Right about there. Alright. I'm still keeping that's a little bit tight for initial, so I probably should have gone out a little bit further on my outside downwind. That's okay. We'll make this a tight turn to initial. We'll report boss driver 1 initial. Good view of the runway there. Let's say they tell us boss driver 1, left brake approach in. Let's say left brake approach in, boss driver 1. Right there's about approach in, idle, speed brake, pull. Last time I got a little bit low, a little bit slow, so let's recover from the idle boards a little earlier. There's good speed, bring the speed brake back in. Check my positioning, and go to gear and flaps. Go full flaps, and pretty much immediately rolling into the perch, base to final. Trim, 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 don't get slow. Say we're cleared touch and go. Lined up on final, aim point airspeed. Last one was alright, so we'll try to stick with that. On back, power pull. Hold it off. There's touchdown. Go flaps half. Power up. Lift off. Gear up. Good speed, flaps up. This time we'll pull close to a full stop. Let's pull close to the right on this one. See, there's traffic off to the left. Boss driver 1, request closed. Boss driver 1, cleared right closed. To right close, boss driver 1. There we go. Pull, roll it over, keep that pull going. All the way over. That was a pretty tight pull. I'm going to need to space it out just a little bit. We'll roll out here on 270. We can let's use the inside runway, 11 right for this. Alright, pull power back, wait for about midfield before I configure. I can afford idle to bleed off that speed. Inside pattern for military is continuous turn to the downwind and continuous turn to final. It's unlike civilian patterns where you'll roll out on crosswind and base. Let it roll out a little bit. Sweet ride. Next time, guys, we're going to talk about high key and low key and breaking out of the pattern, but that was the basics of the outside pattern, flying initial, going into the brake, doing the touch and go, pulling close both sides, the continuous turns on the inside pattern, and the box for the outside pattern. Oh, that's another thing. Fighter pilots don't like to say box. That is it. We'll see you guys next time. In the meantime, look good, sound good, fly good, in that order. See ya!